parents say, how can I get my child to read? And you're like, sit down and open a book.
Yes.
It is hard, but actually you're modeling to them it's important to find the time to do it, to prioritize it, rather than just saying, oh, you need to read and I'll be on my phone. It's actually let's sit and read together. Let's get a cup of tea and a blanket and just sit and read for half an hour.
Today I'm joined by Laura Evans-Jones, an English teacher, writer and pastoral leader who has been teaching for 15 years. With a side hustle in event production and management, she still manages to get through an extraordinary number of books of varying genres. Whilst never overly comfortable with the "what am I reading this week" sign on her office door, in case her text of choice that week tends more towards frothy than the fiercely cerebral, she always has a recommendation if you need one. It could be argued that with an overwhelming love for all things Dickens and being a self-professed Thomas Hardy superfan, it was reading that took Laura into teaching. But it was really the fact that spending time with young people is the best way to spend your days, and being able to chat about books with them is just the perk of the job. I really like that. And so here comes Laura. Welcome, Laura. Let's start with your school. What can you tell me a little bit about your the context of your school, say?
Yeah, of course. I am at an all-girls Catholic secondary school. Mm-hmm. It is an independent school, and we're on the Hampshire-Surrey borders. But we draw from quite a wide circle, which is really good. Very busy. Got about just under 500 girls across year 7 to year 13. So it certainly keeps me on my toes.
Yeah. I bet, especially girls. Oh my goodness. I've had other chats with other head teachers and teachers who are working at all boys school. This is my first all girls school, so I'm curious to see if there's any difference in approaches or feedback, because especially with the conversation around things like writing and reading, which can sometimes be a boy struggle. So I'm very curious about your approach in your school on that one. So what about you then, Laura? Like, thinking about when you first got into teaching, like, how did you get to where you are now? What made you even want to become a teacher or even work in education? Why do we do it?
Yeah, why do we do it? When you see groups of teenagers at the station, you think, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Teaching was probably inevitable for me because I come from a family of teachers. I never wanted to be a teacher. I did an English degree. It was more of a side reason for being at university, and I did a lot of events work and sort of production management, things like that. I'm a sound engineer by initial trade.
Wow.
And it's quite a convoluted story.
I love it already. I'm invested.
I was teaching at a performing arts school, doing their technical theatre BTEC, and actually realised that teaching is really fun, and that's probably why I come from a family of teachers, because it's a great job. So decided I wanted to formalise it. I had to do it in English because that's what my degree was in. And then life turned a little bit of a corner, not in a bad way, just it was a bit more practical to be working in a school rather than in performing arts. So much more teaching now, a little bit less event management. But a bit of a side hustle during the school holidays.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Especially, how does it work as a side hustle? Do you do that kind of? You set up as your own little business, or do you work for a company?
A lot of it is voluntary, so I do a lot of it for our church, and we do a couple of big conferences over the summer, so do a lot of it there, and then bits and pieces of freelance work.
Wow, so you've not dropped it at all, even though you've become a teacher?
No, I try and fit it all in if I can.
How between reports and being a pastoral,
very carefully,
all those other things that you have going on in your life? Gosh, so from being a teacher, then, as you said, it's kind of like in your roots, what was kind of inevitable, writing on the wall. What made you? How did you get into being the pastoral lead? Was that just kind of an organic thing, or was there an actual passion for that element of education?
I think it's more the idea of like the why. So I know there's a real movement now even on the academic side of things to really understand the why behind a pupil. But for me, it was so much about, if they're not able to engage with their lessons, why is that? How can we look after them? We joke about we're in school all hours of the day and night, but actually, like, kids spend most of their time in school. So you just want to make sure that you know them and that they feel known and they feel seen. Absolutely. And then they're going to, happy kids work better.
Definitely. I love that. Happy kids do work better. And like, even same with teachers and staff, if you're feeling like you're having a bit of a rubbish day, going into the classroom and then having to perform and get a whole class to invest in your kind of buy-in an idea, it's just not going to happen. So yeah, I could totally get why you want like happy kids, happy feelings, good vibes only type thing. I like that. That's nice.
And I think for staff as well, like I always find, so I'm actually doing much less teaching now. So at the moment, I'm doing an interim role as deputy head. So I only teach for 5 hours a week at the moment, but those 5 hours are precious. There's no emails. It's the kids. It's why we went into it.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember when I went on one of my first training courses looking at senior leadership, and the person running it, Jill Berry, she's phenomenal. Like, any teachers need to just, if you get a chance to go on a course with Jill, go.
Oh, okay, great.
But she said at the end that taking your first step into senior leadership is like your first step out of the classroom, and that you have to be ready to leave the teaching time behind. And at the time I was like, yeah, that'd be fine. No more year 9 last thing on a Friday.
Absolutely.
And now every time I get to go in a classroom, I'm like, oh, children, not emails.
I'm back.
Here I am.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's really interesting thinking about it like that because, you know, you've got so many other hats to wear and so many other things to kind of do. So when you get those opportunities to kind of go back to teaching, like, as you said, why we did the job to begin with, I used to be a teacher until very recently. So, like, it's interesting. You don't want to kind of lose all kind of grasp on what it's like to why you got into the job in the first place, and that buzz you get when you teach kids and they're getting something and they're like, oh, miss, and they're excited and enthusiastic. That you just can't beat that, can you?
It's honestly the best. Like, I was talking to some parents the other night at options evening, and we were joking about everyone says, oh, they love their job, but I was like, oh no, I actually do. Like, every day there's a part of the day where I'm like, oh, I really love this job. Like, sometimes it's getting in the car to go home, but you know, it'll be when a kid says something absolutely hilarious, or they have that moment of something they've been struggling with and you suddenly see it click. You're just like, yeah, that's why we do it.
Yes, absolutely. Like when they do something, even at the weekend, like wider curricular, and they want to share that with you.
Yeah.
It makes you really feel like you're kind of part of their journey in life. And I'm at the age now where I've had students who have like finished school and come back and been like, you taught me when I was in year 3, and now they're like 18. And I'm thinking, oh my God, you're little humans. You're actually going out there being like adults. How did that happen?
A couple of years ago, one of the first sixth formers that I taught, so I've been teaching, this is as bad as it sounds, I've been teaching 15 years, but one of the first sixth formers I taught showed me a photo of her baby. I was like, oh, wow, this has gone full circle.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's a real moment, isn't it? I mean, gosh,
Yeah.
wow, I'm so glad, well, that you remember me to begin with. I've made an impression, but you feel a bit old, don't you?
A little bit. It's when they're old enough to start coming to school and I'm teaching their children, I'll be like, maybe it's time to leave.
Yes, I've never done that yet, but yeah, that certainly would be an interesting one for sure. Like I said to you earlier, when I spoke to other schools and they had predominantly boys, it was like an all boys school, and they were talking about how they found it quite challenging to get the boys to want to read, especially similar age group to you, like secondary. But it was trying to get them motivated and excited about reading. I can see from your background, like, you're an avid reader. I'm very impressed by that collection. I'm gonna have to unpick it in a little bit. But how would you say that compares to girls? Similar ages, of course. We've got different things to contend with phones and social media and all that jazz. But as a school, how do you find girls are receptive to reading? Do you find it's easy to get them on board?
So I would imagine it's fairly similar, because I think certainly since we were at school, books for particularly teens and young adults have really diversified. And I think there's been much more kind of active engagement with boys, particularly in the market of what's available to them. But for us, and I'd imagine it's the same for most schools, it's time. You know, when you talk to parents on parents' evening, I'm always asking, you know, how are they reading? Like, how's that going for them? And it really tails off, particularly through year 8 into year 9, because they're just so busy. They're getting more prep. They're doing all their extracurriculars.
Yeah.
And reading is the thing that goes. You know, parents talk about, oh, you know, they'll fall into bed and just go straight to sleep because they're so tired, and then they get up and start again the next day, which is great. And they're having great experiences and doing wonderful things. But you're just like, oh, that little 20 minutes reading before you go to sleep is the thing that really falls by the wayside. So it's just trying to keep them motivated. Like, we're so lucky we have a phenomenal librarian who, when she started, she would sit with, I mean, she still does it, but it used to really surprise me. She would sit with the kids and ask them what they're watching. And I'd be like, no, reading, that's what we're doing. But actually, she's asking them, what's the last thing you watched on Netflix? What was something you really enjoyed, to get a sense of what genre they're into, what kind of style they're into, and then match a book to that.
Oh, that's great idea. Like unpicking what they're interested in.
Yeah. So finding out what makes them tick a little bit. But, you know, if they'll watch it for relaxation, if it's something that they'll do in their free time, and we can find them a book that's kind of similar. I'm actually this afternoon missing Drop Everything and Read. So once a month, we have like a 20-minute time where the whole school just reads for the last 20 minutes of the day. And that's this afternoon. And I always like I love it when I'm teaching in that period, because I teach English, so it's absolutely legit to just sit there and be like, okay, what book have you brought with you? Why have you brought that one? How far through it are you? And we have some kids that bring the same book to Drop Everything and Read every month. And the only time they read it is Drop
I'm still
Everything
not
and Read.
through it yet. 5 years later.
Yeah. How long is that taking you? But it's just things like that that just, part of it is modelling, seeing us reading. We're really lucky in our timetable to have space to have a library lesson once a week for every class in Key Stage 3. So that's a mix of kind of intervention groups and things like that for their academic work, but also just reading.
Yes.
Just our librarian's phenomenal. She has all sorts of, library bingo and things like that, where they work their way around the board in the course of a year and that sort of thing. So we're really lucky. Like, we've got great resources.
Yeah, I mean that's really nice, especially to have that investment in those types of resources is really interesting, because I've heard of a few schools using Kindles and stuff. Do you guys use Kindles or not?
No, we don't. So we're really lucky. I don't know if you've looked up my school at all, but the big part of the school is in a really old house, which is grade 1 listed. So the rooms are quite fixed in their size. And very early on in its days as a school, the library space was given over to the library, and it's huge, but you can't really do much else with it. It's got massive windows, little nooks and crannies, so perfect for a library. So we have a huge collection that's just forever being added to.
It sounds a really nice environment to yeah. Somewhere that's going to make the kids say, I want to go and read in there. Like it sounds lovely.
Yeah, we do often have girls going, actually, the library's quite noisy because there's so many people in it. Is there somewhere quiet I can go do my work? It's a real hub of the school.
Yeah.
Particularly for a year 7 and year 8, they love it.
That's really good. It sounds like a good problem to have, doesn't it?
If
it's oversubscribed almost. That's really good. And what about things like, I don't know how your school deals with things like social media, but how do you think that has impacted, or if it has an impact in terms of, that quick fix, going through your phone, flicking, seeing something like a video or a post? Do you think that's impacted children's love of reading? Because it's not, when you read, it's not just a quick fix, is it? You kind of got to invest your time.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I find it frustrating when you've got to read 100 pages before you get into it.
Yeah.
I'm like, how have they not mastered this? Just get into it straight away.
Start.
I need a hook. I need to know in 10 pages that I'm invested, and then it's worth my time, because time is so precious. So how do you find that kind of works in the mix with social media for you guys?
I think it's kind of twofold. So partly what you were saying about it needs to grab them so quickly. So there's a real kind of hinterland between children's books. So you're kind of, Enid Blyton's Diary of a Wimpy Kid, that the Cathy Cassidy, like your children's books, and then like your young adult books. There's a bit of a hinterland in year 7, year 8 where you're really good readers. There's not much out there for them because the content isn't appropriate in terms of the complexity. So that's when I always try and move them on to the classics. But they're like, how many pages to describe a field? I'm like, start on chapter 3, it gets good. But it's a real style, I think, at the moment that authors are seeing that actually that starting straight away. It has to grab them because they're so used to that short format information.
Yeah.
And there's so much pedagogy out there about it does destroy their attention spans. It has no effect on their attention spans. But the reality of it that we see is that kids are used to getting information in 30-second packets. And if it's not interesting, they scroll on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
by adults.
Yeah, well, exactly. But it's also a
7
time
seconds
thing. Yeah, we're exactly the same when I'm marking work. But, I'll often find myself on the phone of an evening, like just scrolling through TikTok or, sometimes messaging people, but more often than not, just scrolling pointlessly. I think actually, if I had half an hour of that time every day to read a book, I'd read so many more books.
Yes.
But it's just there instantly.
Absolutely. I'm like that. And I sometimes, one of my aims for this year was I'm not great with a non-fiction book. I have to really be in the right frame of mind for a non-fiction, because for me, reading's escapism. Like I want to get into bed at night and read and feel like I've gone to a whole different place and love it. So to kind of impute my brain to be like, right, I've got to really listen and take in the information that I'm going through here. So one of my aims for this year, it was like a New Year's resolution, which I'm going to start in February, but it was to read like 10 pages a day of like a non-fiction book, just to feel like I'm gaining something out of it, because like you, it's just so easy to pick up your phone and 15, 20, and it can snowball into 30 minutes of looking at some feed about something, and at the end of the 30 minutes I'm kind of like, what have I actually gained in that time? Do I feel like I've relaxed, or do I feel like I've actually like learnt anything? Or if I read for 30 minutes, is that a better use of my time? And it's that kind of internal battle, isn't it?
And I think it's that, again, it's a stylistic thing. So I feel like when we were at school and people were saying, read non-fiction, it's quite dry,
Yes.
autobiographies, it's textbooks, you know, whereas now it's much more, you know, there's a whole raft out there of what I call like fiction adjacent. So they'll see that a particular genre is taking off and then be like, oh, let's come up with some things alongside that, particularly around history,
Mm-hmm.
like spy novels and things like that. I love a
Mm-hmm.
good spy story. So
Oh,
anything of
yeah.
that ilk, like
Yeah.
biographies, autobiographies, how they did particular things during the wars and things like that.
Nice.
Love
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
I,
I've got
I
a
like,
really, really fat one about medication in America, and there's like a couple of big families who kind of run a lot of the politics behind that, and it's massive. And I really need to read it, but it's really huge.
sometimes even that can be off-putting, can't it? Just like the appearance.
Yeah.
But sometimes when I open a book and seeing the size of the font, and I'm like,
Yes.
oh, that's too tricky for my eyes.
Yeah.
Get that. I just like it's gonna have to be another day because I like a big font.
I mean,
Like
literally, you can
SpongeBob.
see here, like Dan, which one we're going, Dan Brown books. They're
Oh,
nice little short packets of information, my Harry Potters.
oh,
Like, there's
God.
definitely a little clue on this shelf. The more
Yeah.
erudite stuff's over there and doesn't
What
get
do you
read
say
as
your
often.
all-time favorite book is? Have you got a favorite?
Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy.
Oh, nice. I've not read
Yep.
that one. I've not read
Oh,
that
I
one.
absolutely love
Classic.
it. Did it for GCSE with the teacher who inspired me to become a teacher. Um,
Wow. I mean, that is a
and
statement, isn't
just,
it?
yeah, oh, she was amazing. She
Wow.
taught me GCSE and all the way through A level. Um,
Amazing. I bet she, like, if she ever hears this, I'd be feeling very proud of myself, thinking, wow, that feels really nice.
oh,
Yeah, I mean, what about in? I'm not, so I was a primary school teacher, so and I've got two young children, which are 3 and under, and so my children's book repertoire is very much picture books. I'm Julie Donaldson, I'm Oliver
yeah,
Jeffers, I'm very,
you're
I'm very
definitely in that season.
yeah, Benji Davies. I am there in the picture book, and I am absolutely loving them. I feel like I'm collecting them at the minute because I'm almost getting more invested in their books than my own. Because I'm just like, oh, it's another picture book. This is so
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah.
What would you say are the top books that young adults are reading now? Would you say what are the popular ones you're seeing in your school?
Um, a lot of TV tie-ins. We had to have quite a few conversations with Year 7 and Year 8 about how, even though it's got a film picture on the front cover, we're not reading Wicked until we're maybe closer to the sixth form, because the source material is not what the film is. So a lot of it can work backwards. So they'll see the film and then want to read the books. Um,
Yes,
Lots of romantasy, lots and lots of romantasy. We love a dark gothic prince.
nice.
Um, that's always really popular. And also, I don't know if it's a particular quirk for our girls, but things like Good Girl's Guide to Murder, Spy
Oh,
School, I
yeah.
Tell You But I'd Have to Kill You, all of that kind of genre.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, I've got to say,
Um,
I am new to the romantasy genre for adults, that is, but I am new to romantasy because I'd never heard of that as a genre before. And then I was told to read, what was it called? Fourth Wing. That was
yeah,
something I was told to read, yeah. And I read that and I was like, oh, I quite like this. Like, I feel like it's like Game of Thrones-esque. It's,
yes,
dragons, it's fighting, it's action, it's
yeah,
romance. I'm like this. And then someone told me to read A Court of Thorns. Have you read that, Court of
yes,
Thorns?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm on book 4 now, and I'm like, right, I'm really invested in this now, getting ready for book 5. So it's opened up a whole new world to me because I'm kind of like, even though I enjoyed watching it, a bit like your girls on like the telly, like watching things like Game of Thrones, I'd be all over that. The Hobbit, I'd be all over that, and then like reading it,
Yeah.
I really loved it. So for me, like being able to. I've obviously these haven't become TV adaptations yet, Fourth Wing or Court of Thorns and Roses. It should be.
I don't think it'll be that long. They're so popular.
It's everywhere, everywhere. I'm thinking, who
It's
hasn't?
like I love a good saga. So things like that where you think, oh, that would make a great TV show. The Seven Sisters series by Lucinda Riley.
I've not
That's
even seen
really,
that.
really good.
Okay, what's it called? The Seven
Definitely
Sisters.
recommend. So it's based the Seven Sisters by Lucinda Riley. Is based on a concept of basically a philanthropist who adopts orphan children from around the world, and
Oh,
then he he dies at the start of the
oh, so it gets you really
first
hooked at the
novel.
beginning then.
Tearful, but he dies at the start of the first novel, and then there's a novel for each sister as they explore, and he leaves them a little clue, and they explore their heritage and go and find like their
Oh,
relatives. It's amazing.
Oh wow! Oh really? I'm
Absolutely love
gonna
it.
put that on
But I
my
love all
list.
that kind of stuff, like Ken Follett, Pillars of the Earth. Just yes, absolutely.
Oh wow. No, I do. I really love it when you get into a book and you're not just like, oh, I'll read a bit more tonight. You're so hooked that any
Yeah,
time you're just like, I'm trying to right make the dinner, stir the stir fry,
yeah.
whatever I'm doing. I'm quickly reading it then, or my child's trying to do Duplo next to me and get my attention. I'm like, yeah, 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 yeah. Quickly go back to my
Like, please stop disturbing me. I need to read my book.
yeah, like any time I could, and that's what the A Court of Thorn and Roses, the first book,
Yeah,
was for me. It was just it hooked me in straight away, and I just love how it can just capture your attention immediately. Like, oh, this is exciting! Like, I want to read more about that. That's really cool. Um, and then talking about things like technology having its place, we touched a bit on social media and stuff. Do you find that are you using tech in your school? Are you using things like iPads or we use
yeah,
a really popular app called Epic. Have you heard of Epic? It's like an online library for books.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're an iPad school, so we have been for 5, 6 years now.
Right.
So we were already using iPads for teaching literally just the start of 2020, which turned out to be really convenient.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the girls are well used to that. We use it as exercise books and everything. So for English, it is really useful. Everything's at their fingertips. But also, handwriting and things like that can be a bit challenging. So we operate a hybrid model for English where they use exercise books for all their written work. But we've just started a trial with Sparks reading. So lots of
Okay.
schools use Sparks for maths and for science. They've brought out a reading element to that, which is great, which is adaptive to the students. So like it'll be how fast they're reading something. It will test how challenging they need it to be and just adapt as it goes. So that can be really, really useful because some kids, like I would always prefer them to have a physical book because I love a book. But some kids actually, for them, it is being on their iPad and they prefer the technology side of it. So for me, it's anything that engages them in reading. We're a Hampshire school, so all of our girls have Hampshire library accounts, so they can borrow ebooks
That's
and
great.
audiobooks from Hampshire libraries, which is great. And we try and encourage them to get out into the libraries of their
Yes.
towns and stuff where they live.
Yes.
Um, and audiobooks are really divisive. So some
Interesting.
people say that it doesn't teach you vocabulary and it doesn't stick as much because someone else is doing the work for you
Okay.
and you're just listening. But also, I do find for reluctant readers that actually that's a really good way in for them
Yes.
to, they listen to the first book maybe of a series and get to know the characters and the style, and then would be more willing to try the actual physical book. So
Yeah.
for me,
And
it's whatever gets them reading.
absolutely. And also, you could argue that with the audiobooks, no, it depends on the type of learner that you are. You might be an auditory learner, like, it might be kinesthetic, whatever it might be. You might be that's how you learn. Because I know certainly like people, just some children, I'm thinking when I've read to them, are far more invested because they have that battle we talked about, like kind of barriers to learning before, but like they have that battle of trying to read on the page and compute what's being read, and
Yeah,
they're getting that fatigue, aren't they, like trying to, especially younger learners and people that struggle with reading, it can give them that kind of fatigue to make it feel like, gosh, this is hard. It's meant to be enjoyable. And like, I can appreciate why people would enjoy an audiobook. I have a real battle now with, do I listen to an audiobook or do I listen to a podcast?
yeah, true.
On the dog walk, I'm like, I don't have
Yeah,
time for both. Which one am I going to go down? Like, which one do I want to do? But like you, I really just like holding a book and just
yeah.
reading a book. Like, there is something quite nice about that.
I mean, I have a Kindle, and we'll go on holiday, and my suitcase will be like half books, and my husband's like, "The Kindle." I'm like, yeah, but I've bought the books. I need to read
Yeah,
them.
absolutely, and they look nice on the background. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
it's that sense of satisfaction, isn't it? Pop them on the bookshelf behind,
Yep.
show the spines to be like, yeah, I remember that one. That was a really good book. I enjoyed it. Do you find that within your setting, getting parents to be involved in reading and reading for pleasure and kind of promoting that love of learning, which particularly with literacy and books, do you find that getting that buy-in a challenge, or because of the busy lifestyle we all lead, or is it not as hard?
I think a bit of both. I do think parents can be quite idealistic, so they all want their children to be reading
Mm.
because they know it's really important. From a real kind of basic level, it's the real life. Kids are seeing how punctuation works and how it changes the sound of a sentence and learning much more vocabulary.
Mm.
So parents all know how important reading is, but they also know that it can be really hard to find the time to do it. So I always think it is that idea of just modeling it. Like, actually, how often as a family do they do drop everything and read?
Yeah.
And it's really hard because life is busy, and you've got two kids going in different directions, and then you get to sit down together at the end of the day, and by the time everyone said how their day was, it's time to go to bed.
Yeah.
So it is
Totally.
busyness. I think it's a real challenge. I know whenever I go into town, if I'm working in town or whatever for a day, I will see lots of people on phones with headphones in. And I do think that the development of podcasts, because it's such a good way to get information, to hear different opinions and things like that,
Mm.
that 10 years ago on the train, every other person would be reading a book.
Yes.
My
Yeah.
husband would used to say that was when he did his most reading.
I'm
And he's never read as much as when he was working in town. So I think it is a technological world, but you almost just want to encourage people to take that step back and just get out a paper book.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And it's funny, I went into London a few times last week for the Bet Show. Have you heard of the Bet Show?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went to the Bet Show last week. It was a really great, exciting place to be, and like hearing all the hustle and bustle and seeing all the great kind of companies out there showcasing what they're doing in education is really exciting. But when I was on the tube, I don't know if I was shocked, but I was surprised to see that obviously weren't as many as they used to be, but I was surprised to see people reading on the tube, because I was thinking, oh, I couldn't cope with this. Like, I'm trying to hold on with one hand, I'm trying to navigate that spaghetti map with another with all those bright colours on. I'm thinking, how on earth am I going to read a book and not miss my stop because there's just nowhere
Yeah.
to be? And I saw people like saddled up quite comfy in the chairs, reading their books. And I was like, oh, people are still reading. That's great. And then I thought, well, actually, in relative terms, I can see 5 people reading on the carriage that I was on, but there could have been like 100 people on that carriage, and actually percentage-wise, that's a really small percentage because everyone
Yeah.
else was on their phone. A bit like me, because I was trying to navigate myself around,
Yeah.
around London, not get lost, which I'm notorious for. But I think it made me think, oh, it's nice to see people reading, but I'm sad that it doesn't seem such a common thing. Like, everyone should be there with a book. I mean, how often is it so easy just to pick up a phone, isn't it? I often tell my
Yeah.
husband in the evening, I'm like, what are you doing on your phone for? And he's like, I'm reading the news. And I'm thinking, that's not proper reading.
Yeah. Doesn't count unless you're reading a newspaper.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just to be doesn't count. I think because so much, like you said, we live in a technological world, is kind of moving in that direction. Things like, for us, growing up for me, my parents would always have a newspaper every Saturday. I think they still do
Yeah.
every Saturday. And in our house, like, our children aren't seeing us getting a newspaper because my husband subscribes to The Independent or whoever he follows.
Yeah,
On his
exactly.
phone. And he's there, like, getting it, directly to spoon fed to him. I'm thinking, should we be modeling like different texts? Because it's also about showing children you have to read a book, you could read a newspaper, you could read comics. Is that something you're trying to expose them to, like a variation of texts?
Yeah, and I think just when you're saying comics there, just thinking actually, it used to be a real thing, like to get your pocket money and go down to the shop and like
Smash
start your
Hits, remember all that?
collection.
Yeah.
And it's not as popular, I think, because reading tends to be like books or something electronic.
Hmm.
Like, there's definitely been a real dip in the market for sort of magazines and things like that. And I think as everything has gone digital,
Mm.
because people can just get their phone out and it's, one fewer thing to carry and things like that. But I
Mm.
think it's it's more like, we were talking about how big a book is and how off-putting it can be for adults, that actually for kids, and particularly ones who struggle with reading, actually there was always real value in comics and graphic novels and things like that are just a little bit different. They're not just really dense words on a page,
Mm.
and it's
Mm.
just finding those routes in that work for young people.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more. And it's like you said, things like comic books and stuff, there is a place for that. And then I think about like the climate now in terms of magazines. Like, the only time I buy a magazine is when I go to the airport, which isn't often. So I'm not even buying magazines now. But then I think about when I was growing up, like things like, I mean, this is really bad magazine taste, but smash hits, huge.
Yeah.
Those are the popular ones. I mean, Hello and OK, I know still have a place now, but they were huge back then. Like, they were where you got all your latest news and your gossip. Whereas now it's like you can get it all online, or TMZ do it better or whatever's going on. And it's just so interesting to see. Like, I don't actually feel like I've seen many children focused magazines. Is there something called Weekly Kids Weekly or something? There's like I've seen Ben Fogle and his kids do a lot of that.
Yeah.
like a magazine
And
area.
there's another one called The Day and The Day Junior, so newspapers written specifically for young people. There's one called The Happy News, so it is still out there,
Hmm.
but everything comes with a digital version,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I think for them it's much more about the content. So like with the news and the News Junior, it's about getting young people like factual, non-biased news, helping them move away from like their social media streams for information, things like that. So then they're like, if we do a digital version, then they'll read that instead of being on TikTok for the news. Whereas
Yeah.
for English teachers, we're like, but hold the newspaper.
Yes.
That's what it's for.
Gosh, yeah. And like thinking about all the different things that are out there, it's just it is endless. Like you said, you could watch a film of it, you could watch it on your phone, you could read about it, you could get an actual hard copy book or a magazine. It is kind of like for some people it might be a bit overwhelming with where to start, especially if you're not really into it. I was just thinking about when you said before about being pastoral lead and doing the production thing on the side and interim deputy. I mean. Thinking about teaching currently as it is now, because it's under so much scrutiny, isn't it? I mean, workload, job retention, love of the job.
Yeah.
I was just curious, how the heck are you managing doing all those different things, spinning all those plates, and still going and loving it every day? Have you got any like tips for anyone listening on how to kind of make it manageable?
I Do you know what my secret weapon is? Actually my husband.
Love it.
I am with my girls the poster girls for you do not need a man, you can do anything you want in your life. But honestly, our little household would crumble if
I
he didn't do everything.
I love it
So
already.
he will sometimes refer to me as term time Laura, so it'll be like the 1st of September, he'll be like, see you at Christmas.
Oh,
So, but he is, I think your support network is just so important. We don't have children, so our time is very much our own when we're not at work. But I went, because I grew up daughter of a teacher, I knew what the hours were like, I knew what the pressure was like, so I kind of saw it from the other side.
yeah,
But also I am so lucky with, I mean, I'm on SLT now, but as I've worked my way up through the school with the SLT, like I'm on my third head now, and they've all been brilliant in different ways.
yeah,
But just a real focus on staff doing the work. As long as the work gets done, it doesn't matter where it gets done. So quite a lot of our staff have young families, and they'll leave straight away at the end of the day, go and get the kids, do bath and bedtime, and then emails will start to pick up again later
yeah,
in the evening.
yeah.
But it's just that flexibility of, yeah, this is your job, but you also have a life.
I
If you need to go to a nativity, if
Oh
your kid
wow.
needs to go to hospital, if you need to go for a doctor's appointment. And I
Yeah.
know some schools aren't able to give that flexibility.
Mm.
I think 'cause we're an independent school, we have a huge amount of scrutiny, but it does feel slightly freer,
Mm.
because we do kind of run it ourselves. So I think the ethos of the school as well can make a real difference, but
Yeah.
also the families that you work with, the needs of the kids. If you're in a school that needs a huge amount of funding to support the needs of the children,
Mhm.
then it must feel so much more pressured
Mm.
than my nice independent school on the Hampshire Surrey borders. Like, kids are kids, and kids will always have challenges. But ours is a very happy school. It's a very content school, and our staff are happy,
Yeah, I mean
which
that's
does make a real
key.
difference.
Absolutely. I think it's that kind of staff culture, isn't it? Making sure that people feel valued, people feel like listened to, that they have an opinion, that you value, just because you don't have a family doesn't mean that you don't value that other people might want to leave at 3:30 or whatever time
Yeah,
your school finishes. It's that respect of look, I understand you've got a life outside of school. And I think it's that fear sometimes within teaching that teaching can kind of it becomes your life. It can take over, can't it? And it's actually kind of it can be for some people. I know it was for me a bit of a lifestyle, more
yeah,
than it was a job, because you kind of it just shows how much you care, doesn't it? It shows you care, you want to do it, and it's just about managing it and doing it right. I think that's really interesting. It's so refreshing as well to hear how you say, if people want to go to like a nativity or a doctor's appointment. I know how many times it can be tricky for some people in some schools to even ask to go for a doctor's appointment because of the pressures from not just like the head, but the trusts and whatnot. That makes it quite challenging. So that's really refreshing to hear. I imagine staff retention is quite good in your school.
yeah. We do have a pretty low turnover. But I think it is that, everyone has lives. I love my job. It does take up the vast majority of my time, but it is just my job, and it's, if I can step in for someone to cover a lesson so they can go and do something that needs done with their kids, then fine. That's great. They'll return their favour for me. My sister's in the police force, and I needed a whole day for her passing out parade because she thought moving to Nottingham was a good idea. So even though that was only half an hour, needed the entire day to do that. And people just lean in and look after each other. And I just think I'm so lucky to have found my feet in the school. I started there as an NQT 15 years ago, and I haven't left yet.
Wow, that says a lot.
Yeah.
It really talks about that feeling behind the school, and lots of people go to start off as an NQT or an ECT now, isn't it? But they start off and they're kind of try a school, go to another school, and kind of sometimes struggle to find their footing of where to stay because of the demands and the pressures of teaching and stuff. So it is really nice to hear your story. I wonder if your story's a rare one or if it's becoming,
I think it probably is in a way, because teaching is really hard, and I think it can, every school has its challenges until everyone who's not an SLT will go, yes, everyone always says that. But until you are until you carry the weight for those decisions, you really don't. I thought I knew a lot and then went on to SLT and was like, oh no, I knew barely anything. When you carry the weight of those decisions, it's not just the school. The school's a business, but it's run by people, and it's the children and the parents. And when you have to hold all those things, some days it's what's the least worst option we can do. It's really hard, and budgets are so stretched. I was hearing about a school the other day, one of our local primary schools. It's a Catholic school, and they are looking at running their school at a loss this year because of the various things they have to pay to the trusts and to the diocese, and just kitting out the school. There's a school up here near me, because I live a distance away from my school. There's a primary school up near me that relies really heavily on an external let for their budget, for the nice things for the kids, and that external let is coming to an end at some point this year as they're moving on. And you just think, oh, where's that going to leave the kids? What are they going to have to be going out with? Because budgets are squeezed everywhere. Every department of everywhere in the country is being squeezed, and schools still have to pay staff, they still have to heat, they still have to feed the children. Do you think actually what's running by the wayside, it's going to be their library budgets, isn't it?
Oh God, you won't be getting your nice librarian, that's for sure. She'd be first to go. Struggle to get speech and language specialists coming in, let alone the librarian. That, I've got to say though, it's lovely to see how your school values that role and the impact that role's had. The fact that the library's hustling and bustling, people want to go in. It's got those activities going on, which is really exciting. And I could just go on and on and on about books and talk.
We just talk about books all day.
I just really could. I love it. But I was just wondering, a lot of people that listen to this are going to want to have something to kind of take away, something they can use in their classroom or at home if you're a parent listening, or maybe it might cross over as both. But something that I quite like to end on is asking people if they can give 3 things that a teacher or parent can do this week to improve reading at home or at school, or as their school culture. Have you got any top tips that they could take away from it to inspire reading in their school or home?
So as I was thinking about this, I was like, I don't think I've got 3. The first one is definitely talk about books. Just talk about them. If you've got in the classroom when the kids are packing up, it's really easy for me because I'm an English teacher. It's probably harder if you're teaching, science or maths. But just, talking about it, or, in that what did you do at the weekend, talking about something that you've read or that kind of thing. If they're talking about something to do with TV, oh, have you read the book of that? Or this series is really similar to that. So trying to help them make connections between what they're doing in their real life and reading, but also just the modelling it. Parents say, how can I get my child to read? And you're like, sit down and open a book.
Yes.
It is hard, but actually you're modelling to them. It's important to find the time to do it, to prioritise it, rather than just saying, oh, you need to read and I'll be on my phone. It's actually, let's sit and read together. Let's get a cup of tea and a blanket and just sit and read for half an hour.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, I think that would be the main ones that I do with modelling and just talking about it.
Yeah, no, I love that because it's so easy for us as parents, as teachers to say, or whatever role you're playing in terms of modelling to other children or even adults, well, we want you to read, we want to see you reading more. But if you're not doing it, and then if you're the one that's, sat on your phone or watching the telly, like, oh, just read for 10 minutes,
Yeah.
it makes it seem like it's more of a tick box exercise, which it isn't meant to be. It's meant to be that kind of love of reading. I think so many times that I read books, and even now when I'm writing, even if it's an email, I think, well, this email sounds a bit more exciting. Where have I got this language from? And I firmly believe it's because I've read something where I thought, oh, I really liked how they phrased that, or I really liked the metaphor they used. And even in my speech oracy and stuff, it's really exciting to kind of drip feed some of these nice words I've been hearing and these phrases. I'm thinking, oh, don't I sound clever now? This sounds great.
You'd have like word of the week on the fridge. I mean, like not at the moment because the kids are a little bit younger, but when they're reading more, you could be like, right, what's the best word you've learned this week?
Yes.
Like we had a whole conversation the other day about when we learned to pronounce Hermione, because
right.
we read it in the book and we were all like, unless you know someone called Hermione or Adele, how do you know how to say that? You
Absolutely.
should never laugh at someone for mispronouncing a word because they almost certainly learnt it by reading.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. I even, I often, like I said, relating it back to my picture books, but when I read The Ugly Five or The Smartest Giant in Town, they have songs within them, and because they've not become like a BBC adaptation or whatever, I'm trying to think of what the tune is to the
Yeah,
song. So I've like made up my own version. I'm so curious what other parents think that the tune is to these songs.
yeah.
Like,
You just get together and be
doing
like, we
my,
do it like this.
yeah, I'm doing like my rap to my son, thinking, is this how it really goes? I'm just not sure, but personal preference, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Laura, thank you so much for spending time with us
No,
today.
you're really welcome. Thanks for having me.
It's been amazing. So thank you, and keep doing the amazing work that you're doing.